We proceed, Mr. President, to the question that was put to you by Honorable Abraham, question number 10. Mr. President.
Honorable Speaker, the effect of the coronavirus pandemic on economies of many countries around the world has been quite. Like most other countries, we've had to confront the effects of a massive global slowdown when it comes to demand and supply, and a dramatic decline in our own local economy activity. As our economy has suffered from the effects of the pandemic, as well as the measures we've taken to contain its spread, we've also had to mobilize additional resources to mount an effective public health response and support companies, workers, and households that COVID-19 has put under a great deal of distress. The supplementary budget tabled by the Minister of Finance on the 24th of June, therefore, proposed significant increases in expenditure in the context of falling revenues. As a consequence of our decisive and absolutely necessary response to this pandemic, government debt is expected to reach 3.9 trillion rand in 2020-2021. This does not include the debt of state-owned enterprises. If not addressed over the medium term, the cost of servicing this debt will consume much of the savings accumulated in the economy each year. This would severely damage private investment as well as economic growth, reducing the revenues on which government spending plans depend on. This could mean that spending programs that we have in government in a variety of departments are overwhelmed by debt obligations. During the current MTEF period, for example, debt service costs are expected to exceed total spending on healthcare alone. Since the economy and the fiscus were already weak prior to the current crisis, the starting point for ensuring fiscal stability is to close the gap between government spending and tax revenue. In undertaking this task, somebody got shocked. In undertaking this task, government has adopted an active approach to managing the country's debt. It is committed to an active set of fiscal and economic reforms to raise confidence and growth as well. This includes faster implementation of the economic reforms that are needed to support investment, as well as employment, to raise productivity and competitiveness, and to lower the cost of living and the cost of doing business. These reforms will include the finalization, which is in process, of electricity determinations, going on with the restructuring process of Eskom, and other steps to open up energy markets, the modernization of our ports, which is speeding ahead, our rail infrastructure, which is going to commence in a meaningful way, and licensing of high-demand spectrum, which is going to happen. Under the active scenario, which requires a program of fiscal restraint, we anticipate a small surplus in the primary balance, which is the difference between non-interest spending and revenue in 2023 and 2024. Debt by then should stabilize at around 87% of GDP, after which it would gradually start declining. Those are the projections. The active scenario prevents debt service costs from continuing to rise faster than all other items of spending for the foreseeable future. In this way, it prevents an outcome where South Africa's debt costs are higher than all other expenditure. Sovereign debt crisis causes investors to leave the country, and the country has to seek large bailouts from other lenders. To the degree possible, with limited resources, government continues to support the implementation of the priorities outlined in the government's medium-term strategic framework of 2019 to 2024. New and urgent government priorities have been funded through the reallocation of budgets within and across functions. Improving efficiency, meaning that government will have to do more with less, has become a necessity. For example, more will need to be done using communication technology instead of spending money on accommodation and subsistence, as well as travel costs. And in many ways, this COVID moment has presented us with new ways of doing things where we can actually utilize this moment, however long it will last, to save as much resources as we possibly can and redirect those resources to where they are most needed.